We have risen from the ashes to school the masses. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Scholars Wrestling Show, episode 427. I'm your man behind the microphone, Scholar Jeff. Joining us this week, the OG Undisputed Scholar. He is Scholar Tarek. Scholar Tarek, how's your week going, sir?
It is my week has been quite a busy one when it comes to the parent life.
Oh
But
boy.
when it comes to the wrestling fan life, it is quite the not really eventful one, but at least we got some good wrestling out of it. All I could just simply say, all three shows this past week have just been absolutely good. I found something to enjoy in all three of them.
Absolutely. We did definitely get some solid wrestling, but this was a week filled with pretty sizable and interesting announcements, and we're going to go over all of them, starting in a little segment we like to call Backstage News.
Indeed, we shall go ahead, peek behind that curtain once again, as we do every time we do Scholars of Wrestling, to check in on a little backstage news.
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 News. News. No,
Echoes
man.
and the fade outs.
No, man.
Meh.
No,
It
man.
feels incomplete without the meh.
There's no need for the
Brian,
man,
we hope
because
you're
it
well.
was good it was good wrestling this week. So there was no reason for the man.
Yeah, I do the meh out of tradition at this point. But in any case, yes, there was some rather interesting developments this week in the world of professional wrestling and starting in the world of WWE, where, according to some indie bookers who had previously booked Carlito, they had gotten word that from him saying he wouldn't be able to make it because he had recently signed again with WWE.
My response to that when I first read the articles was just, why didn't he sign like right away, ever since Backlash when he made that appearance with the rest of the LWO? He honestly should have been a regular character from then on, because not just from the response there, just from the response of the internet wrestling community. People were very happy to see Carlito. I was happy to see Carlito. It was very cool indeed.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of, because if you remember during the Thunderdome era, I believe, he had an appearance in the Royal Rumble, didn't he? And I
I
believe that went over like absolute gangbusters during that time.
I think you're right. He did make an appearance in the Rumble. It got a good response. He shows he's still in great shape.
He's in better shape than he was during the Ruthless Aggression era.
Yeah, during his time when he was like in the prime, yeah, he looks more like in his prime now, actually.
The man pulled a
Um,
Tatanka. He comes back decades later and he's looking way better than he was before. What the hell?
it's now like really reaching the point. Okay, he's back. Bring him back as an on-screen character. The question is, what do you do with him? That's actually kind of a fair question, but where would I want to? Honestly, I kind of want to see him feud with Austin Theory for the United States Championship.
That was the first thing that people I've heard from tend to say. Like, he's a powerhouse in the mid card. He looks better than ever. Pair him up back up with the LWO and have him go for the US title. Pair him with against Austin Theory. It'll be great. And
But then that
really,
also it also throws out the question: what about Santos Escobar? You want him to be, I guess, a center point as a future star. Does that take that kind of momentum away from him if you bring back Carlito to be feuding with Austin Theory?
I say yes and no. My instinctual gut reaction just tells me, yeah, there's gonna be some initial like hype up for Carlito when he first comes back. But then after a few weeks, maybe a couple months, I don't know, we'll sort of gauge where the interest lies. After some time has passed, you can basically turn him heel because he's been a heel for so many years. turn him heel, have him go against the LWO, say, "You're not cool, apple spit, whatever." And then he kicks off a feud against Santos Escobar, and then eventually resulting in Santos Escobar winning the feud and then sort of taking that next step up in his career. Because I feel like right now, again, your mileage may vary, but I feel like right now he's doesn't have quite the momentum he probably should, for whatever reason that may be.
Escobar doesn't have the one. Okay.
I feel like Escobar needs a little bit extra oomph to separate him from the pack. And using someone like Carlito in his position in the card and experience, I think it's possible that that may be one route you could possibly take, not only to best utilize Carlito, but also kick things up a notch for Santos Escobar without getting him lost in the shuffle. Could it
Interesting. I
work?
don't I don't I don't really want to just see a feud between like this the inner turmoil of the LWO. If anything, just have Carlito be basically a hype man for him, for Escobar. Have, if anything, just have Theory wrestle him like as just, oh, he's facing future Hall of Famer or someone who an established superstar, and then Escobar can be the actual centerpiece to like Carlito be basically be the transition to make the focus of the Austin Theory feud with Santos Escobar.
That would
I
work
just
too.
don't I just don't think a few just basically like, oh, LWO Civil War type of storyline really is just something it really doesn't need. I mean, they're really not doing anything as like storyline wise as with the group. It's just, oh, we're just really using LWO as branding more
Hmm.
than anything.
Yeah, yeah. I was thinking more in terms of if in the scenario that you described earlier, I was just thinking if by chance that Carlito being associated with the group ends up overshadowing Santos Escobar and everybody else. If that were to happen, there is a potential solution. Not that it's the best way to necessarily book someone like Carlito, but it is one option. Just and I think that's one thing that speaks very highly of Carlito is there's a lot of versatility there. You can do a lot of things with him. So wherever you put him on the card and however you handle him, generally speaking, I think there's a good chance it could work.
Possibly, yeah. And if anything, you'll just really turn the LWO into WWE's NWO, just add more members to it, and you can just add uh wow, why am I blanking out on their names?
Uh
The Colognes.
for a second there, I thought you were going to say, "Oh yeah, he could make the LWO a lot more cool."
I wasn't gonna go there.
Oh, really, it was such low hanging fruit. I'm surprised.
That fruit is spoiled. I'll just pass on that one. Thank you.
Oh well, I tried.
But back to what I said. The Epico and Primo. There we go. Now I remember the Colognes. Add them to LWO. Just expand that family. Bring his cousins in.
Hmm. Interesting
There,
choice.
you can there. That's your LWO Civil War feud.
The Colognes versus the LWO. Hmm.
The Colognes LWO versus the oh my god, what was their stable before they became the LWO? What, I'm terrible with names tonight. Uh,
Oh wow, now I'm blanking.
something fan
Legado del
Phantasma.
Fantasma.
Like, there
Thank
you
you.
go. That's
Hmm.
Civil War. That would be a fun feud.
You know what? I don't hate that nearly as much as I expected it to. I was like, my gut
You
instinct.
hate it a little bit.
I didn't want to say it, but in my instinct for like 5 seconds was like, that's a dumb idea. It's too convoluted. It's too much. And then the more I think about it, I'm like, I don't hate that idea. I'm not totally
something.
sold on it, but I don't hate it either. Not by a long shot. So, hey, again, Carlito, you can do. He's like the Swiss Army knife for wrestlers. You can do anything with him. Fight
It
anybody,
adds
feud
on
with
to your.
anybody.
It adds on to what you were throwing before. Just
Yeah.
add a little more. I guess you could say lackeys.
Hey, there's lots of ways you can go with it, and
And then,
again,
of course,
now
there's
I'm
Ray
getting
in the
more
middle
hype.
just going, "What is wrong with you guys? We should be working together."
Working together, that's not cool.
And then, yeah, Carlito being the heel spits in the apple in Rey Mysterio's face. This isn't going to happen.
It writes itself.
This is just nothing more than fantasy booking that's just not going to happen.
But still, the ideas just flow like water right now, and I think that's a testament to the quality of the signing of someone like Carlito. But speaking of people coming back, at the time of this recording, we just got earlier this afternoon a much maligned ESPN interview with one CM Punk, only one day ahead of the newly debuting AEW Collision show. This interview with ESPN, I don't know about you, what your experience was, but for the past couple days, all I've been hearing is, "Uh-oh, CM Punk did an interview with ESPN that got everybody mad. Everyone's in damage control mode now. That's gonna make everybody mad." So, meanwhile, us being us, we're naturally waiting and on the article to drop. We're like, "Oh no, what did he do now? What did CM Punk do?" So, as of maybe what, 5 hours ago, 6 hours ago, whatever it is, we finally get the article. ESPN posts it. We read through it, and it's not nearly as incendiary as we were leading it to believe. I remember I posted it on our group chat for the show right as it happened, right as I saw it, and the the pretty much the consensus we got was this isn't so bad.
It was definitely more like I was looking at it as kind of a okay, I kind of need to set things right before I actually come back to AEW television. I feel like I need to show that it put my side on things you know, as much as you can without really getting in trouble. Uh, what's the word? Like making sure he's saying the right things, making sure not just letting it know. Okay, I messed up with the media scrum. I apologize to Tony Khan about that. Uh, I tried to make peace with the this is I tried to make peace with the elite, but they don't really seem to want to make peace. Looks like we're not going to be getting a CM Punk versus Elite feud anytime soon, as much as some people, including people on this show, wanted it. My immediate response is he's just trying to do a good PR thing for AEW and Tony Khan. Hopefully, this will mean something for AEW Collision. Anything more than just the Chicago show. Hopefully, we'll get some good stuff out of this to the point where we're going to be reading articles. Oh, the ticket sales for Collision aren't doing very well. Ratings aren't doing very well either.
Yeah,
Hopefully, it will lead to better things.
and frankly, I think it will. This strikes me as being very well. First of all, I can say that I did get out of this interview the one thing I really wanted to hear out of Punk, which was owning his mistakes and admitting it was mistakes and apologizing for it in a public fashion, which I'm very glad for. That he isn't just doubling down and saying, F this, AW sucks, man, I'm taking my ball and going home. I'm glad he didn't do that, which again, it proves me right that there is absolutely a road forward for everybody involved with this. And that's the general consensus seems to be this was all a stupid, unfortunate incident. It never should have happened. And everyone just wants to put it behind them. I could
Is
absolutely take this as face value. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just have to ask, is one part that confused me, was it someone trying to get him in this sit backstage with the people backstage, or was he trying to get a sit down with the guys, the people backstage?
My understanding, the way I read the article, was he attempted to reach out to the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, or I'm just going to call them the Elite because again, there's still a lot of
Mhm.
specifics that we just don't know yet. But my understanding from reading the article was that he reached out to the Elite and he was basically denied by their legal team. Although it is of the understanding that we don't know who actually sent that reply, their legal team or the Elite themselves. But let's see what there is a quote about that. And let me see if I can find it. Okay. Here's a direct quote. CM Punk says in the article, quote, Punk said, "So I understand people want to say that, oh man, Punk is a dick. Well, yeah, because I'm defending myself and I will always defend myself. I'm open to having a full blown effing sit down powwow discussion with everybody about it, but it hasn't happened yet, and it's not because of my lack of trying." Unquote. So,
Okay.
so yeah, I certainly, it sounds like, frankly, my perception has always been that Punk was possibly going to be the holdout or the hard-headed one in all this. But then again, I truly don't know any of these guys. Frankly, I think that everyone can put up their big boy pants and just hash this out and do business. Even if you don't like each other, you can still do business.
Hmm.
Which, given the insight of a lot of the people involved in this, and given what we said seen in, for example, the MJF situation, where some sort of rough incident could be smoothed over and sort of turned back around into something interesting for TV. I can't shake this feeling like that's a possibility for this whole incident. Where, yeah, they're sort of playing coy about it, they're sort of they're sort of putting it to the wayside here. But something about this I can't quite put a finger on is telling me there's absolutely a chance that they're sort of working us, and the door is not shut on a CM Punk Elite feud at some point in the future.
But just not right now.
Yeah, it definitely seems like a work in progress. Excuse me. Excuse me.
Yeah, bless you.
Yeah, my gut tells me that the match is coming, and most likely than not, all the smart people know that this is a big money feud, and that to me says they're going to save it for All In at Wembley Stadium. Just make it the biggest show they possibly can. I could be totally wrong, but if the
Uh,
match is going to happen, I think that's the most likely scenario if the match were to ever be possible.
I don't think it would be that soon, to be perfectly honest. I think this is something that needs time for both parties, because it may have been last year that this happened, but the fact that now Punk is coming back, it's basically slowly reopening wounds that definitely still needs time to heal, now that both parties are actually back in backstage. Even if it is different shows, some things need to be done in order to really get this feud going, because if that feud comes if they have this match this soon as you're hoping it would be, something will happen that there will be stiff shots to the point where the match will break down, because I just basically see some egos showing their ugly faces in to really stop the professionalism. Is like, all right, real, you really want to go there? You really want? Okay, boom.
And I can't say you're wrong either. This is what I see happening. I personally think that things could be smooth over faster than that, but I I could absolutely wrong because it's not up to me.
Mm-hmm.
All I know for sure is that this is definitely a big money match
Oh,
that
definitely.
all parties involved would just be leaving on the table. So everyone involved would be foolish if they didn't try and make this work. I'm just thinking in terms of magnitude of the match and the kind of interest that would be generated by this. All in is just my first gut reaction,
Mm-hmm.
but this could very easily go on any one of AEW's major pay-per-views, and it would be a main event show seller easily. Just a
Oh,
question
absolutely.
of who wants to play ball and when.
And it also has to stem from, in specific cases, CM Punk's health, because the man is put in two main event pay-per-view matches, and both of them has him legit hurting himself, that he has to take more time away. So with that factor, you think, oh, maybe you could just get this match put in right away, just so we can get it over with. But then there's also like, oh, if is this man even really capable of putting this type of quality match that us, the audience, is really wanting? Can it to be delivered if it's a man who is now reaching the point where his age is making him injury prone?
Yeah, that's definitely sort of taken a back seat to the media scrum and the brawl out and all that stuff. But you're definitely not the first person to make a mention about that. So I think no matter how you slice it, this next week or so is going to be a very telling one. And not just that, but also a very serious, like, how do I phrase this? I guess regaining of trust in the eyes of the public, but also his peers, that not only is he going to be a good boy and not fly off the handle, but also that he can remain healthy and that everything's cool and that the last two injuries are just a freak coincidence.
Let's
I
hope so.
really hope so. I really hope so. Because when see as much as some of co our co-hosts on this show are very vocal in their displeasure regarding CM Punk. When CM Punk is good, he is great. And I just think that as much as there's a risk that he could end up re-injuring himself or flying off the handle or having, a piss take or whatever, there in my mind there's just as much of a chance that he is going to deliver and then some and grow grow from the whole experience, both physically, mentally, emotionally, everything. And I'm still going to bet on CM Punk, and I don't think I'm going to be disappointed. I'm still very hopeful.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of really more hope. I'm more focused on what Miro does when it comes to coming back, like making his return in Collision, than what CM Punk does. Because I am also in that I'm not as harsh on CM Punk as some of our co-hosts, specifically Jeremy and Brian, but because I actually don't really know Charlie's stance on it that much. But when it comes to me, I'm also at that point where the media scrum and just how things ended up really hurt my views on CM Punk. And I want him to show that this time away, this time away from the healing and basically staying away to cool off from what happened with him, Ace Steel, and the Elite, it kind of really just it just left a sour taste in my mouth. And I'm hoping that he, as we put it, grew up, and this interview showing that he admitted what he did was wrong, and he apologized to Tony Khan and all that. I'm hoping for the best. I'm hoping for what he brings to this new show, what he brings to AEW in general, for what we could possibly get in the future. I'm just basically keeping my distance when it comes to CM Punk, because I'm not going to be as teary-eyed happy as when he first initially came back to where we are now. Like I'm even thinking of actually selling or donating the current CM Punk shirt that I have, because I look at him just like, yeah, I really don't want to wear this anymore, just because I just don't want to support what he's done this last year. Just showing what kind, like, oh, he's back, after 7 years of being out of wrestling, trying what he can possibly do in MMA, but apparently I don't think he even wants to talk about that anymore. And what he did when he came back. So I'm not hopeful as you are, but I am just going to be like, okay, I'm going to see what you do, and hopefully in time you can warm back up. You can make me be like, okay, you are changed. I'm happy for you. Welcome back. I will basically be like, well, here's the shake. Welcome back, Punk. I'm still focusing on Miro because I want him to just continue to succeed, because Miro could be possibly one of the big faces of AEW, and we're wasting time. Bring on the Miro.
To quote the great American poet laureate who put it in the best way possible I could ever think of, Mr. Lloyd Christmas, so you're saying there's a chance? Yeah.
What was all that 1 in a million talk?
Hey, I'm just saying the chance exists, that there's some good things ahead. And speaking of good things ahead, we did get some pretty, pun fully intended, Dynamite announcements this week on AEW Dynamite regarding next week's Forbidden Door show with New Japan. 2 big matches got announced. We've got first Jungle Boy Jack Perry going up against the IWGP Heavyweight Champion Sonata, who I didn't even know he was the champion at this point. But the big match that has everyone talking right now is MJF going up against Hiroshi Tanahashi. I was even telling you before we started recording this that my wife and I got home late. We walked in, I throw on the TV, and boom, there's a graphic, MJF versus Tanahashi, and my jaw hit the floor. Like, that is a pay-per-view seller. Big time.
Oh, that is definitely a pay-per-view seller. A lot more than Jungle Boy versus Sonata. I don't really think anyone cares. Like, of all the people to really respond to the open challenge, I don't think Jungle Boy Jack Perry was really the one people were really looking for. I mean, he wasn't really doing anything much after his 4 Pillars match. Who are we kidding? Let's be honest. The other 3 contestants in that match really haven't been elevated after that fatal 4-way. So I guess in the end, that really was a great, like, I was right in the end to really think, this feud has been really boring because nothing's really happening. And it just, the end result shows nothing really happened. No one's stock has raised other than probably MJF. But even that, he's starting to get a little, it's like, I'm kind of slowly getting a little bored with him now. And that's really such a shame to say, because he really is at the top of his game, but I'm actually kind of getting bored with him. Not with his title reign, just with him, because it's kind of just been a repeat with his story. I mean, he's been doing great building the feuds, but I just feel like I don't know what it is really, because maybe it's just because I'm more focused on Blackpool Combat Club versus the Elite. But CM Punk. Sorry, I still have the TV on, and I see the preview for the Collision. The Collision. There we go. But I really don't know what to say about, and like, nothing's really wrong here. I'm not like, when I really look back, I'm really picturing like he had a great match with a really great ending with Adam Cole this past week. He's still doing great on the mic. It's just something about it is just kind of losing me.
And I think I've got a theory as to what that might be. I think we're so used to seeing MJF perform at a high level that we've almost become accustomed to it, or it's almost gotten, I don't want to say stale because it isn't, but more like we've seen a very similar thing over and over and over again, where it needs either some sort of special opponent, a special circumstance, something to give it that little bit of extra bite to make it an all-time classic. That being
I can't even.
said, that being
I mean,
said, I think this is what makes an opponent like Tanahashi such a great pick, because in a lot of senses, this is a dream match between all-time generational greats. This is something that can very easily kick up MJF to the next level to make him look even more spectacular. And at this point in his career, Tanahashi is in the mode of just making people. He doesn't have to protect his spot anymore. He is literally the John Cena of New Japan. He's a made man and he knows it. So he's got no problem giving back and creating something special.
I I do agree with that. That he is at the point in his career where he doesn't really like this. The loss won't hurt him, and
However,
it's not good.
Sorry to cut you off, but I have heard another crazy idea roaming around. I guess we make it a scholar's quick talk. People are like, okay, yeah, MJF is going to most likely win this feud, but what are the chances that Tanahashi actually wins and actually goes on a US tour for maybe 2 or 3 months, and then as the AEW champion, making a legit world title? Could it happen?
Could it happen? Sure. Will it happen? I doubt it. The chances are very slim of that, actually. They're probably really wanting to push this MJF title reign. So having him lose it is probably not on the deck. Not in the cards. Not there.
Yeah. And
It's an
unfortunately, I'm not going
interesting
to
idea.
be, yeah, it's sort of made, it's not something I adamantly believe in, but someone online pitched the idea, and just for a second, it made me actually consider it. But realistically, after looking at the way the card is shaping up, this definitely reads like MJF is going to go over Tanahashi. Like there's got to be an even blend of New Japan and AEW victories on the card. MJF is going to beat Tanahashi. Sonata is most likely going to beat Jungle Boy. Brian Danielson is
Most
most
likely, he's
likely
definitely
going
going
to
to beat Jungle Boy.
lose. Yeah. Okada is most likely going to beat Bryan Danielson. And what's the other? Oh, Kenny Omega is
Omega,
most likely gonna beat Will Ospreay, but they're all going to be absolutely dynamite matches. But each
no pun intended.
promotion involved is going to come out smelling like a rose anyway, and both their champions are going to win.
Agreed. I'm just the one thing I disagree with you back when it's the right feud. I feel like Adam Cole really is a really great feud to go with MJF. And he in my personal opinion, Adam Cole could be a big face factor in AEW. He could be someone that you can really promote the company behind. As much as Hulk Hogan says he looks like someone who could bag his groceries, because we all know that's who he was talking about.
To be frank with you, I didn't know what the heck he was talking about. Like,
He was just basically saying some wrestlers today look like they can just bag his groceries.
yeah,
And I'm just thinking he's probably just talking about like just a bunch of small guys like Adam Cole, bye.
and it's very well possible. I just thought I was talking just like, general terms.
Oh,
Not
he's
Hulkamania
definitely
is ancient and old, and like, get off my lawn, you kids, brother. Blah.
he's definitely talking about the general sense. But when you look at like people fighting in a world title feud, when Roman really has none, and Seth is going against Finn Balor, who is someone you can grind meat off his chest. He's just that chiseled. I don't know if it's even stemming from what like something similar to what Kevin Nash talked about all those years ago about how wrestlers he doesn't believe small wrestlers can be world champion. It's probably the same different meal, same flavor type of ordeal. Going back to our scholars' food puns. Um, but I definitely do believe Adam Cole could be someone that you can push. You can put AEW behind as a face of the company, at least one of the top faces of the company, and as someone
I feel like it's
who can
already
be world
there.
champion.
I feel like he
Well,
kind of is already in that conversation, really.
now maybe, but not when he. I guess just to go with what MJF when he first came in, he's just like, oh, he's just a guy, and I feel like this match that he had with him for the world title and how it ended, just to like not give us a clear winner, but can definitely keep the feud going. To I would love to see him be the person who can top MJF, because I think one factor, like now that we're just talking about it and I'm just thinking about it, I think one factor that really is making me kind of push away from MJF is I guess he really is just constantly bringing up WWE in his promos to get that nuclear. He's trying hard to get that nuclear heat with this AEW crowd by constantly referencing Vince McMahon, WWE, having the elbow pad. Vince was right. I feel like that's just as you put it earlier, low hanging fruit that he just constantly grabs at. And I'm kind of tired of it. It's just something he doesn't need, but he keeps coming back to it. That is to the point where, okay, you keep bringing up, oh, the company that I'm the world champion in sucks. I'm going to leave here soon. It's just the constant shitting all over AEW. That is just about, okay, you're talking down your company so hard that it's actually starting to really affect the viewing. Is like, okay, then what? Like, then if you're constantly doing that whole thing, I know it's just for promo sake, but it's now reached that point where I'm tired of this. I don't want to have you keep constantly like, oh, it sucks here. I have better options. La la la. We already know you got a new contract, so stop with this bullshit.
Yeah, I really don't think that in my mind, I think I've seen him dial it back just a tad. And I've seen enough good things from MJF at this point to think that he knows or at least he's learning when to dial it back and when to tailor it to get the best possible result here. But in terms of just the whole Adam Cole feud, I sort of see Forbidden Door as just being a bit of a stopover, like a special attraction. And then
Oh,
once
yeah,
that show
definitely.
is over, I think you're right. I think you could very easily slip back into this feud with Adam Cole and pick up right where he left off. No problem at all.
Hmm. I honestly hope so, because it was a great match they had this on Wednesday. And
Too
I want
good
to
to
see,
just leave on that on just like a random dynamite. They gotta have more.
oh, this is definitely they put a pay-per-view match for free, and it really was I know people were very pissed off at that ending. Well, at least just the wrestling Twitter and all that, just like, oh, this ending is bullshit. But when it
Ye-
comes to really the storytelling, you don't want you don't really want a clean victor in this story, because this story is just getting started. So you want to keep the story going, and this is the type of story that you could have at a pay-per-view. And I'm not gonna lie, nothing would please me more just to see Adam Cole celebrating with that title over his head. And Britt Baker is there celebrating with him.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see what the landscape of AEW is going to look like, not just uh
Champion
post
MJF.
Forbidden, not post champion MJF, but also more post Forbidden Door, maybe even post All In to see what the feud situation in AEW could be. Because I think if there isn't a title change at All In, who is up in terms of the esteem in the crowd's eyes is going to be very interesting. I think MJF's feud won't last too much longer after that. So it'll be interesting to see where all this goes. But speaking of next chapters, we did just tonight on this night's SmackDown, speaking of WWE, we did get another chapter seemingly being opened at this point because the Usos have finally formally turned on Roman Reigns, saying they're never coming back. You know, you tried
They're
to
out.
break us up, Usos. We're out. You're out, but so am I. Super kick Roman in the face. We out. It finally happened, and it's just still good. It's still good programming. It's still a good feud.
It is still good. It's good storytelling. Um, of course, my big criticism is not even with the content, the content of what was shown in that. It's just the fact that you have Paul Heyman having the two old belts.
That bugged me too. Like, oh,
I
can you
feel like
please lose the belts?
I feel like now it's at that point where it's now like you bring in this brand new title to signify, okay, the two titles are now one. Why the hell is he still with those two belts? It kind of devalues this new belt that you're trying to push. This is now the main title.
It's funny. I saw that, and your voice was in my mind. Like this, just immediately complaining about it. Like it's like I had a vision of this exact conversation that we're having right now. Like
Oh,
I
because
know Tark's going to say something about this.
it honestly stems from what we've talked about in the group chat. What was it, last week? Where I'm just like,
Yeah, pretty much.
it still continues. It's like, so from what there actually has been reports in response to something, the discussion on, okay, what's going on with the lineage of these titles. It looks like once Roman loses the belt, it's now going to mainly focus on the WWE Championship lineage, and the Universal Championship is going to be the one that's retired. They're basically saving that so Roman can keep his over 1,000 day title reign going. And so I would just have to ask, once Roman loses the belt, do the other two titles just Thanos away?
I
finally?
think if Cody does end up beating Roman for it next year at WrestleMania, I'm going to say the answer is going to be yes. Because right now I can see them making it like, oh yeah, Roman's carrying around all these belts. He's making Paul Heyman carry around all these belts because he's a Roman is like a total egotist, and that's what the way he wants to roll, even though that the belts don't mean what they used to anymore. I imagine them going along with that route where he almost just turns in like a really buff Gollum, where he's just holding on to all the gold as much as he possibly can because his family and his empire is crumbling around him. I can see them doing that kind of thing. At least that's the only thing that makes sense in my mind at this point.
It really is such a shame now because it's such good storytelling, yet it's kind of wasting the championship.
And even
Like
going
it's
further down this road, I'm sorry, continue.
it's it's what I mean by that is just now this because it's not even about for like the question is now who can take the title off Roman anymore. It's just now it's at that point where no one really cares. So does this title reign? It's like, yeah, he's still counting down the days of the longest title reign, but yeah, no, does anyone really care that much other than just like the hardcore fans that are just basically, oh, tribal chief is gonna win all the belts. You should go ahead and just give him the tribal chief belts. We're one. We are one. And trust me, I like this tribal chief story. I like this tribal chief storyline, but now like I'm just like, okay, well, you're you got no real storyline now other than just the storyline of the bloodline. This could have been have it where you don't really have to have the title in this storyline. I mean, this is now reached that point where this is beyond the title. Now it's a waste of time. It's a waste of time for like the other wrestlers who are in now, like they're in Money in the Bank, but now they're thinking, oh, they're obviously not gonna cash in on Roman, so they can keep this title reign going. Obviously, Seth is gonna be the one who's gonna be cashed in.
Is it to that I say, is it totally obvious though?
Yes,
Because
it is
frankly,
very.
I don't think it is, not by a long shot.
Oh,
I
it's definitely clear that whoever's reading that briefcase is cashing in on Seth.
I am not 100% convinced on that. I
They'll save Cody winning the Rumble and choosing Roman. That's what they're going for.
I still have some reasonable doubt. Like there's so much just because of how much time we've got to play with this and where in the bloodline storyline we're at right now. Because right now the Roman's empire and family is falling apart. His safety net is now gone. So now there's a question of, okay, the king is standing alone. How long before he's vulnerable? How long before someone attacks him in the night and takes his throne? And who's going to be the one to do it? Obviously, there's no question that Cody is right now is the front runner in a lot of people's minds. But earlier before we were talking, and you also noticed someone else who got a whole lot of positive, extremely positive reactions from the crowd, that the rumor mill is saying that WWE is high on, who is currently in the Money in the Bank. I'm talking about LA Knight. I know it's not anywhere near soon, but is it possible he could pull a Seth Rollins and cash in and be the one to break the streak now that break the Roman reign, such as it is? Any chance at all?
As much as I want to just, you know me, I love LA Knight. I am a huge LA Knight fan. I before we even started recording, I'm just like, why isn't WWE taking advantage of having of turning LA Knight face. Because every time he's facing people that you want to push his faces, they're getting boos because they're facing LA Knight. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to
He
say yeah as he could he be. I would love that would be such a great rub for him to be the one to pin Roman Reigns, to be the first person to pin Roman. But because they're trying so hard to keep him a heel, as much as the fans are just saying, no, we want to cheer this man. We want to go and just be like, yeah, LA Knight, yeah. And every time he's in the ring. WWE's just being stubborn about it and just be like, no, this is what we want to do with this man. We want him to be a heel.
in that
Too bad.
case, my internal let's call them power rankings for who I think is going to be most likely to take the belt off of Roman by WrestleMania 40. My number one is definitely still Cody Rhodes. I think we're absolutely going to get that return match. A second place pick would be Jey Uso. If we're going across this storyline, he's at least going to be one of the next contenders up soon. But in third place, in a distant third for a dark horse pick, I think that could be LA Knight with the Money in the Bank briefcase. If he, of course, he wins it. But if he
Oh, he's going to
does,
win it. Yeah.
if he does, I think there's a chance he could very easily hang on to it until WrestleMania, where he's just sort of like walking around, talking it up, like doing a LA Knight, yeah. And then by the time we start getting to the Royal Rumble, or immediately after, or we start building the WrestleMania next year, LA Knight will start showing up in Roman's promos and making his presence known. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a much longer shot than Cody or Jay, I know, but at the same time, it's also a lot more possible in my mind than a whole lot of other people on the card.
I see Jey Uso being a SummerSlam opponent.
Agreed. Jay and
People
Roman
were
definitely
talking.
seems like the match.
People are thinking Bobby Lashley, but if anything,
No, I don't see it.
he's a post SummerSlam feud.
Agreed.
But
Hmm.
LA Knight would get he would get basically a Dolph Ziggler level pop if he cashes in on Roman.
Yeah, that's why I
But
deliberately went with the Seth Rollins cash in on Roman and Brock. I forget which WrestleMania that is, but everyone remembers the ending. And I can definitely see if they build up LA Knight right and give him the briefcase and do everything right, I can see them easily replicating that if they don't get the result that they want. And I can see it working. I really can.
I think we have a better chance of seeing LA Knight cash cash in at SummerSlam against Seth Rollins than Roman at WrestleMania.
You do have a point, but I don't know if they're going to want to leave LA Knight on SmackDown or bring him to Raw. That's the thing. I just don't know. I know I've said a million times that the rules are solid until until WWE decides that they aren't. But this one, I'm not sure if I can see them bending the rules like that for LA Knight. Yeah.
Oh, I definitely see them. I could definitely see them having him be one of the top faces of Raw and pretty much pull his own heist of the century, and because it's most likely going to be Seth Rollins versus Logan Paul 2 for the title at SummerSlam. And I don't know if he'll pull the heist of the century and just put himself in that match, or he'll just cash in afterwards, after Seth has basically gone through hell and high water against in round 2 against Logan Paul. But yeah, of the two, I actually think he could actually really flourish on Raw, because it's kind of even really hard to see what more he can do on SmackDown, really. Like, really, really thinking about it, he kind of has nothing to do on SmackDown other than just building up this story. He's had no feuds ever since ever since him trying to get to WrestleMania, really. Other than that, he's just been there in matches. And I feel like he really doesn't there's really no story that he can have on SmackDown, but he has plenty of opportunities that he can go on Raw, especially cashing in and becoming the new World Heavyweight Champion, LA Knight. Yeah.
Which, again, as far as WWE goes, it's going to be very, very interesting to see how all of this pans out post Money in the Bank. So there's going to be a lot to look forward to in the very near future. It's just a matter of who comes out on top and what it builds to next. But with all that being said, and with all of our thoughts and predictions in the play, now is the point of our show where we turn it over to you, our fellow fans. Is CM Punk going to be reliable? What's the ultimate fate of LA Knight? What are some other matches that are going to show up at Forbidden Door next week? Whatever you think, let us know all across the internet. If you're joining us on YouTube, leave us a comment. If you're finding our Facebook, drop us a note there, our Instagram, whatever. Or if you want to join in the conversation yourself directly, you can join us on Twitter, on our personal Twitter accounts. Fool, where can they reach you?
You can reach me. Actually, hold that thought.
Holding a thought. What thought am I holding? Exactly.
You can find me looking back on last week's episode, which I'm still upset that I missed the 10-year anniversary.
Hey.
Pulling out an old relic.
Oh, you found it.
Past. Oh, indeed I have. You guys brought it up as something that you would like to see back.
I meant to ask you about that off air, but yeah, it's a thought.
It's a possibility now that I found this. At the Avataric.
Yeah, at this point, as even though not everyone could make it, I'm just glad this show is still going on for a whole freaking decade of this madness.
I know.
I can't believe it.
Watching back that episode, and I'm just like, the memories, the history that we've done, the different type of highs and lows that we've had. You guys talked about like which was your favorite point of presentation on the show. I think one of my big highlights since I wasn't here, it was really when it was the three of us in the one in the office and the TV was behind us, black sheets. That I always felt like it was that point we had our real best looking presentation of Scholars. But man, it's wild to think of all that we've had, and you and I recording in your what now is your bedroom. It was just an empty room.
when we were refurbishing my house.
Oh man, really? Good times. Good times. Yeah. Anyway, you can find me at the Avatar.
We had to get that in there somehow.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and for all these thoughts and musings and more, you can also follow me and join the conversation at I'm Robbie Rage. But until then, it's been 10 years of adventures, and there's going to be lots more adventures to come and a lot more wrestling. We're going to be talking about it all because you know who we are. We are the Scholars of Wrestling, and you have just been schooled. You're welcome.
You're welcome.
See you next week for Forbidden Door.